My family came to the Gallatin Valley in 1864. I'm also the current president of the Sons and Daughters of the Pioneers. And we still are on the same ranch that my great-grandfather settled when he came out here from Iowa with his 4 brothers. There was 5 brothers. My older brother, Steve, is a current county commissioner in Gallatin County. My dad was a county commissioner. I was 10 years on the Gallatin County Planning Board. I'm a freshman legislator. I just spent my first term in the legislature. They redistrict. I've got to run again if I want to serve. I'm running for House District 64. That's my new district. That goes from Four Corners to West Yellowstone. And in 2004, we started, 12 of us started Citizens for Balanced Use. There's some pamphlets on the table back there. Pick them up. No cost to join. You get email alerts. There's a quarterly newspaper that we send out to kind of keep you abreast of what's going on, whether it's water issues, land issues. Every day there's something in there that's affecting us, whether it's health care or trying to take our property or our rights, Endangered Species Act, the sage grouse, the grizzly bear. It doesn't matter. It should matter to all of us, which I told everybody I was going to record this, so I'm going to punch this here. And everything's working. I think we're okay. I think we'll be all right. So with that being said, I'll get started. There's a lot of things that really are important about this presentation. We developed through CBU a little deal called sustainable communities. In order to have sustainable communities, the first thing you need is people in the community. A lot of times they're trying to remove people from the landscape, remove people from the communities. You're going to feed the people, you need agriculture. If you're going to have clean water, if they're going to be sustained, they're going to have water, food and water. You got to have shelter, that's your timber. Minerals are everything from the chairs, the roof, the electronics, the piano, everything is your minerals. But the thing that keeps you sane is your recreation. It's to be in the outdoors, it's to go bowling, it's to go golfing, it's to go skating, it's four-wheeling, it's motorcycling, it's snowmobiling. That's why I got kind of a winter growth going on. I'm a snowmobiler. But I couldn't grow it last winter because I was in session. They told me you can't do that. I said, okay, that's fine. But anyway, this comes off sometime in April. Mother's Day, actually. But anyway, if we're going to have sustainable communities, we need all of these things, all of them together. And every time we turn around, there's more pressure to get rid of agriculture, more pressure to get rid of our water, take our state-based water rights away and give them to the federal government or give them to people downstream or sell them or water market them. Our timber, we can't cut a tree. All we want to do is burn it. Minerals, we can't get anything out of the ground. They shut down all of our mining and mineral resource development. And recreation, every time you turn around, there's a lock gate. So anyway, CBU is trying to change the trend on this. American Lands Council, Ken Ivory, very, very brilliant man. He's been working across the nation. I just got an email from Carl Graham. He used to run the Montana Policy Institute. And Ken Ivory were both in Washington, D.C. yesterday, talking to the folks out in Washington, D.C. about why the difference. Why are all the western lands out here, less than 50% of these lands in the western United States are controlled by the states. But when you get east of North and South Dakota, more than 95% of the land base is controlled by the states. That's because under the Enabling Act, when these states came into the Union, that land was transferred from the federal government. It was held in trust and transferred to the states under the Enabling Act. And that put all the states on equal footing. And if you look at the equal footings doctrine, all of these eastern states are on equal footings, but not with the western states. We are at a high disadvantage. And the reason we're at a disadvantage out here is the federal government pays no tax on these lands. They give us pittance in pilt payment in lieu of taxes. We're not developing our resources. They're going to pay us a little bit of money, and I'll get into how much that is. And secure rural schools, the SRS program, to fund our schools. In Montana, 40% of our public land in Montana is federally controlled. That takes all of that land out of our tax base. It puts all of the onus of paying for our schools, our infrastructure, our police, our sheriff, emergency responders. 40% of our value is taken out, so the bulk of the responsibility is put on the rest of the land within the state. So the statehood promises are the same to transfer the public lands. It's already been done before repeatedly, and it's the only solution big enough to fund our education, to better care for our environment, our forests, our habitat, our watershed, to grow our economy locally and nationally, and attain energy independence. Imagine what we could do if we could actually develop our resources and be energy independent. So look at what we have here, the national debt. From 1940 to present, we have $150 trillion of unfunded liability. That's our national debt. They might say it's 17 trillion. That's not including the unfunded liabilities that are out there. $150 trillion. I can't even imagine $1 trillion, let alone 150 trillion. And it's grown astronomically since 1975. You can see what's going on. And just in the last 5 years under President Obama, I mean, look at where it's gone from like 100 trillion to 150 trillion. And it climbs exponentially as time goes on, because the interest on the debt adds to the debt. It's like compounding interest annually. And if you don't pay the payment, you end up in debt. The economy of fossil fuels on federal lands, there's $150.5 trillion worth of fossil fuels on our federal lands, federally managed public lands in the West. That's 9 times our national debt. It's equal to our unfunded liabilities, but at $17 trillion in debt, if we were to develop these natural resources on our federally managed public lands, we could pay off the debt tomorrow. Recoverable oil in Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, about equal to the entire world's proven oil reserves, just in those 3 states. But since this administration in Washington, D.C. has been in there, and the Department of Interior and Department of Ag and the Forest Service, they've closed off a lot of the leasing on our federally managed public lands. So what do they say about the Enabling Act? They say, no, you gave away your rights. You said when you've been in a state that you signed off that the federal government, this land is your land, and the Forest Service was put in reserve in 1905, and they're the managers of the land, and the BLM, which was a land disposal. They were to dispose the land under the Homestead Act. They never did. They hold a lot, the BLM in eastern Montana especially holds a lot of public land under their jurisdiction. Western Montana, for the most part, it's Forest Service. A little bit intermingled, but they actually did a lot of land swaps to consolidate BLM and Forest Service so that it would reduce the cost to those agencies of managing that land. I never really saw any savings that they got from that. Now, in 1832, there was a big hearing, a Committee on Public Lands and Surveys in front of the United States Senate. This was in 1832, and here's an excerpt from that. Quoting in the 1832 Public Land Committee of the U.S., the public debt being now paid because when the states came into the Union, the 13 original states, colonies back east, there was a big war that had to be fought. And there was a lot of money that was incurred in debt to fight that war, to get our freedom from England. In order to pay that debt off, the states coming into the Union actually mortgaged their land. Once this debt was paid, the public lands are entirely released from the pledge they were under to that object and are free to receive a new and liberal destination for the relief of the states in which they lie. The speedy extinction of the federal title within their limits is necessary to the independence of the new states, to their equality with the older states, to the development of their resources, to the subjection of their soil to taxation, cultivation, and settlement, and to the proper enjoyment of their jurisdiction and sovereignty. This lines out states have sovereign rights over the land within their states. We did not give this up, and I'll show you under the Enabling Act how this comes about. But in 1832, this was a very important thing to give back to the states that land of which they were entitled to. Now this is the Enabling Act, and people quote this first part. States do agree and declare that they forever disclaim all right and title to unappropriated public lands lying within the boundaries thereof. And that's the only quote you hear, but you forgot to finish the sentence. The rest of the sentence, it says, and that until the title thereto shall have been extinguished by the United States, the same shall be and remain subject to the disposition of the United States, and no taxes shall be imposed by the states on lands or property therein belonging, or which may hereafter be purchased by the United States or reserved for its use. The title shall have been extinguished. They have never extinguished title to the states as they promised, as they were holding this land as trust.